Every day, more and more people are making movies. Filmmaking has become the new garage band. I'm Johnny DiLoretto, and this is Framelines, the series that aims the lens on those who are out there making movies. Some are backyard Kubricks making movies for fun, and others are aspiring Spielbergs, professionals working hard to make it in the industry.
Framelines is brought to you in part by grants by the Greater Columbus Arts Council. Planetary Media, state-of-the-art with an emphasis on art.
Gary Jones has had a long and varied career, directing episodes of Xena Warrior Princess to making feature films for the Sci-Fi Channel. Gary's love of the process is evident.
Alright, stunts, we can saw pedal it from here. It's approximately 3 miles back to the cabin. Should take 43 minutes and 28 seconds.
Thank you for that very important piece of info.
And sunset will be in T-minus 42 minutes and 110 hours.
Hey, I got one. What?
As a kid growing up in the 70s, just, we had that great Saturday morning monster movie, Sir Graves Ghastly, and we'd watch that and he'd have all the Frankenstein and King Kong and everything on, and then my dad was always into the action movies, so we'd watch all the war movies, World War II movies and stuff, as a kid. And so I got to just really be in the movies, and I just loved watching movies. So I thought, well, that's the career, I'll make movies. How do you do it, And I saw a little behind the scenes thing that was from like the 30s or 40s. And, the big cameras and the big dolly tracks, and there's a Warner Brothers back lot, and there's Humphrey Bogart, and the big giant lights and everything. And it just was way cool. I thought, wow, that's the magic, What a great job. So that was like the early beginnings. I was like, I want to make movies. I want to tell these stories. I want to do action and blow things up and have monsters and just, it just seemed like the greatest job ever, and you never had to grow up. My mom had a Super 8 movie camera, and she'd always film me and my brothers and sisters. So for Christmas one year, I got the GAF movie camera, and it was great. And I got that camera, and I just started work with it. I'd shoot Super 8 movies and take it to Kmart and wait 2 weeks to get it back. Sometimes it's all out of focus, sometimes it's not. And so you just learn by doing it, And so that was it. I'd commandeer all the kids in the neighborhood, and we'd go in the backyard and I'd just shoot a bunch of stuff, and then I'd figure out how to put it together. And then I segued into 16 millimeter. Didn't have enough money to go to college, so I never went to college. I just bought the camera and started shooting. It just kind of kept going and going, and finally I got to that point where I was trying to figure out what movie to make, and we all do this, we'll make a horror movie, we'll make a killer movie, we'll shoot people up, I love the movies from the giant 50s, and I love monster movies, but what monster to do? And then it was like camping and got hit mosquitoes. I'm like, God, mosquito? Well, there's, giant ants. The movie Them, that Warner Brothers movie was great, and I loved that as a kid, and that sound effect, you heard them and you didn't see them, and then they came over the rise, it was great. So I thought, giant mosquitoes, no one's done it. That's my calling card. And that was it. And so I built a giant rubber mosquito, and it was that moment in time, when you're wanting to make movies, and you're telling people and you're trying to find money and everything, and you realize that they don't trust you or they don't believe in you because you don't believe in yourself. And once I went out and made this giant rubber mosquito, and I put it on the table there and invited a bunch of investors over, I knew I was going to make a movie. You know, I just knew it. And they walked in the room and they saw that's the star of the movie. And I raised money like pretty quickly. You know, not a lot, but enough to get started. But they knew, I think they sensed that I was going to do it. It was going to happen. And it was such a great idea because it hadn't been done. And from that, I got a directing gig on a TV series. And I went down to New Zealand for a year working on a show called Xena, Warrior Princess. So I got to direct on that. I started out directing the second unit, all the action stuff, but then I moved up into directing the main unit. And it was great, you know, I was on that TV series and I just learned every day, you know. Came back to LA because I'm like, I gotta make movies in LA, you know. So I got back to LA and then my second movie was a movie called Spiders. So there's a pattern going here, right? Mosquitoes, spiders, and then the third one was crocodiles. So it's, you know, we're working through the monsters. And a good friend of mine, Robert Kurtzman, who started his Creature Core, his P-13 business, big effects company, and from K&B, he moved back a year before me, back to Ohio, his hometown, and bought a bowling alley and turned it into a little movie studio. So he was always calling me up and saying, hey, move back, come on back here, let's make movies back here. You know, we got our own studio, we'll do it here. So the family wanted to move back, and I was in between jobs, and Bob goes, hey, come on back, we're gonna make a movie here. So we came back, you know, we did 3 or 4 films back to back and a lot of effects stuff. And then I would go off to do a sci-fi movie over to Eastern Europe because they were all going over there anyways. So I wasn't really in LA, maybe a little bit for the editorial. So it just kind of made sense. I did that little segue from LA back to Michigan/Ohio and ended up staying in Ohio, and from Ohio going all over the world to work. So we were spitballing ideas at a coffee shop, and I'm pitching one, and Jeff pitched, why don't we do Paul Bunyan? So Jeff actually said, yeah, let's do Paul Bunyan. He's a big guy with an axe, and he can kill people. Well, we wanted to do a genre movie, something that we knew we could sell, but I just didn't want to do a slasher movie. So I started thinking, well, Paul Bunyan's a killer, I don't know. And I thought, you know, what's cool is that nobody really knows the story of Paul Bunyan, so what if there's this interesting backstory? What if he is a killer, but maybe something happened that made him a killer, you know? I started thinking of King Kong, I started thinking of all these other aspects we could bring to it, but the real germ, the thing that really got me excited was no one had done Paul Bunyan. It went back to what I always loved, was the monster movies where they actually had a monster. You know, they had a big giant something they built, you know, a practical. And plus it was, you know, cost effective for us to do that way anyways. And with Bob Kurtzman and Creature Core doing the makeup effects and stuff, we had the chop. Find a story or find something to do as a film that you can make you a standout. There's so many, there's such a glut of stuff. Cameras and everything's available now where you can just go do stuff, but there's a glut. And if you're not hooked in a minute or two, people will just turn it off. You gotta learn the economics of the business and understand how the business works that you're getting into, because you're gonna put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into making the product. And you're gonna spend a lot of money. And then what's gonna happen is you're gonna do like everybody does. The distributors are counting on you for product. They need product. Learn as much as you can about the business end of what you want to do with this product if it's for commercial. Don't give up and don't get dismayed if you don't knock it out of the park the first time, because the thing is you want longevity. The overnight success is a great thing if you win the lottery, I think, maybe, but if you're not grounded, you're going to blow the money. Just be prepared for the long haul, because that's really what it's about. If you want to chase the dollar or an award, go for it, but you know, you could beat your head against the wall and be disappointed at the end of your life that you didn't get either one of those. Fall in love with the movies if that's what you want to do, and make them, and try to make the best ones you can and tell the stories, and chase making a good movie. Ohio's great. I mean, one of the things that made me want to come back to Ohio is we just do things, you know. There'll be a lot of talented people back there coming up, crew, locations, the spirit of just getting it done. Hey, you need something done, let's build the barn, you know, we just do it. So I thought, wow, why not come back to Ohio? I can live really decent for a very low money. I can put the rest of the money in movies, make my movies. If I can't find the financing, I can do it myself on a small level, and that's what I do.
Next up, Peter John Ross teaches something about making movies.
I have a metaphor for making a movie. Making a movie is like building a house. It doesn't matter if it's 30 seconds or 4 hours long or anything in between. There are 3 phases to making any movie. Pre-production, which is your script or story or idea, production, which is the shoot, and post-production, where it all comes together. The house metaphor works like this. Your script or story or idea is the blueprint. Where most people make a mistake is thinking because there's so much involved and so many people that production is at least partially construction. Nope. The shoot is nothing but the collection of raw materials. The edit and post-production is construction. What happens when you have bad blueprints and try to build a house? It falls apart. You could have the perfect plans, but crappy materials mean your house will fall down. Using this metaphor, if your script or story idea isn't right, no matter what you do on the shoot, you can't make a good movie. You can have the best materials in the world, as in the best actors, best performances, the greatest camera work, but if the blueprint sucked, you're not going to build a good movie. Similarly, you could have the best story ever written, but without good camera work and even better performances, you can't put it all together in post and suddenly make it good. Finally, the third scenario means that with the greatest foundations and even better raw materials, without a good editor and post-production team putting it all together, your movie could still fall apart. People often wonder, which phase is the most important part of making a film? They are all equally important. No aspect, no detail, and no job on a movie is insignificant. They all contribute to the whole.
The Mid-Ohio Filmmakers Association put on a film contest where the filmmakers had 3 days to write, direct, and edit a short horror film. And now for some behind-the-scenes looks at the filmmakers who took on 3 Days of Terror.
I became a member of MOFA earlier in the year, around the time of the 48. I liked what they were doing for the local community. And I thought, okay, this is a good organization to be a part of. And they had mentioned at the time, we were thinking about maybe doing this as something for Columbus filmmakers. And I thought, oh, well, you know, I'd love to do that. And that kind of even furthered me to get involved with MOFA. So that's kind of where that seed started. And then as time progressed, it just was more of a, we are doing this type of scenario. I was the writer and the editor and the colorist, and I also wrote music for our short called Woodland. Those were my jobs on this specific part. The advice I would give people working within these time constraints would be to be an amoeba. What do I mean by be an amoeba? Be prepared that things are going to go wrong. Locations may fall through, there may be clashes on set. You have to be able to bend and adapt. If you don't bend and adapt, your project's going to fail. If you can bend and adapt, you have a much higher success rate or a much higher probability of being successful. I was taught when I was a student years ago, that filmmaking is really nothing but solving problems. And it is your job as a filmmaker, whether you're an editor, whether you're a screenwriter, whether you're a director, whether you're a cinematographer, your job is to solve a problem. As an editor, you're going to be given footage that maybe doesn't work, or you're going to be missing footage. How do you get around that problem? As a writer, you may run into an actor or actress who can't deliver a line or convey a specific emotion. How do you then get around that problem? As a director, how do you keep people motivated? How do you keep them going? How do you let them grow creatively and be creative without straining them to a specific job or putting them in a corner? Some of the things we had to overcome in our production was, one, the first night we lost our location, we lost our actresses, and when we got back to home base, we basically had to scrap our entire script, which went through 4 rewrites in its first iteration. So as the writer, I had to then come up with a new scenario, which the director came up with an idea, and he gave me that log line and said, okay, write. So I had to write. Unfortunately, this was now Saturday morning. So we were hamstrung for time, so I wrote a script Saturday morning, and then we went into production Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we didn't start shooting until 4. The assessment of what we pulled off is basically that we took a failed production, which we contemplated walking away from, and turned that into an 8-minute short film on a spur of notice. We didn't hesitate, we moved forward as the editor and helping write music. So taking this and looking at it, what I take away from is not only did we overcome some severe adversity, but we did it with style, we did it with class, and those of us who were in the post process got the job done.
Well, I got involved with 3 Days of Terror because my good friend Anthony Gardner, who's also my business partner, got a hold of me and said it sounded like it would be a good idea, and we're both really big fans of horror films, so I said, why not? Give it a shot.
My role was kind of shooting, monitoring everything, I don't know, directing. I kind of helped with everything.
What we tried to do is take every single B film from the 70s to the 90s, take the key components and mash it into one in 7 minutes. And I think we pulled that off pretty well.
I learned quite a bit. Time management, that's huge. Writing a script, which we didn't do. We didn't write hardly anything. We came up with the idea and we were just kind of like, oh, well, we have this, let's get everybody and shoot it. And so it changed quite a bit from what we first came up with, but it's still kind of related to what we had. So, but I'll definitely, if I did it again, I would definitely write it out, plan everything.
The best advice I would have for somebody that's going to make any kind of film, whether it be horror or whatever, in a time frame, is before you enter into anything like this, you need to kind of have your crew figured out and your actors. When we went into it, we had our crew, but we were still trying to figure out who we were going to work with as far as actors go. But if everybody's on board, it's going to make things go a lot smoother. Everybody's going to realize that it's a really quick pacing as far as shooting and all that goes. And you only have, like for us, we tried to get everything done on Friday, so we had this many hours to do the entire film in, and everybody's going to be on board with that. They're not going to ask questions, so just do what they're told, move on to the next thing. Our team as a whole did very well. There was 5 of us in the group, and most of us are used to shooting when we are on filming things. So I think we kind of just stepped back and let the other people do what they needed to do, and then we just tackled other tasks fairly well. So like one of the guys in our team was the main shooter, so everybody else chipped in and we broke it up and edited the different pieces together. And
it was a great time, and like Sean said, we just love horror films, and I like a challenge, so when I get a challenge like that, and I like to work in a time constraint like that, and that makes me push more to get stuff done, get stuff shot, edited, all that, and that's what I like about it is, you know you have to be done at this time, and yeah, I would definitely do it again.
From my experience within the past year and a half, if there's something that you want to do in life, just stop messing around with all the other stuff and just start doing it, because it's going to work out for you. If you set your mind to something, you'll make it happen.
Scott Spear sits down and talks to filmmakers about their process.
What is the best piece of direction you've ever been given in a set? You were like lost in a part or couldn't get it. I mean, my thing, when I get stuck on a set, it's like, I always ask the actor, what do you think the character wants in this scene? And I may not even know, but we'll work it out. So John, what's the best little, some directors taking you aside and said, do this or do that?
I mean, I can think of a situation where I just had it set in my mind to come at a scene in a certain way, and it wasn't matching up with what the director wanted. And again, I think one of the things we've talked about tonight was the director was just very blunt in saying, "Look, this isn't working. Mm-hmm. It's a choice, but you need to make a different choice."
Okay.
And I mean, you just got to, at some point, you got to wear your big boy pants and suck it up and know when what you're doing isn't working. Mm-hmm. And be confident enough to know that that's not going to dictate either the rest of the project or the rest of that day. You're going to have moments where you're going to have to work through things, and you're going to have times when what you're doing isn't working.
Right.
And
right.
I guess just I appreciate when a director will just be very honest in a respectful way.
Yeah. Not scream at you on the set. Take
and
you
that's
aside.
usually what it is. I mean, it's. I'm really actually hard pressed to say that there's been a horrible, horrible situation of working with a director.
Yeah.
Most directors are really respectful of it. But, I guess it's just saying it as a reminder to stay that way. But to do it in a way that's respectful of the actor and as the person, saying let's try something else.
Okay, Christine, what's a director whispered in your ear that suddenly turned a light on in your head?
I think the big one for me was don't move your eyebrows. I really like that one. No, but if we get to the outcome we want, and I feel like we always have when I've been working with a director, then that's good. I can't think of, when you're in there and you're trying to work out the part and you're trying to, it's not really the time when the words of wisdom really drop. It's more coming through it. So yeah, I don't know. I joke with directors sometimes that I'm gonna start making a list of my favorite direction.
Mm-hmm.
Don't move your eyebrows is one, and give me cartoon eyes is another. That was my favorite. Like he really wanted my eyes to go like this. So I think I did all right, but.
Okay.
I would just support, what they're saying. A direction I've got, and this is that difference between sometimes we get so into like, what is the character feeling? And it's like, we tend to believe if we're feeling it, then the camera's believing it. And there's two different things going on there. And what you're doing as an actor might not be selling that emotion to the camera the way the director wants it. And that I had to be reminded of several times is something when you get yourself worked into an emotional state, but they're going, you look constipated, you gotta sell me that you're really like angry here or something. And so you have to then start focusing on things like your eyebrows or your cheekbones or the way you're holding your jaw or things that are small, especially when you're working with cameras, because it's not the same as stage. You have to sell those little things and that's to be reminded that just because you feel it, just because you've got it in your gut that I'm here, doesn't mean that the camera's believing it. And you got to focus on all those things like the eyebrows or the way you turned your lips down or whatever it is. Right. And they're really small things, and they can change what the camera is believing. And sometimes that's the thing that, as a film actor, the camera's got to believe it. It doesn't matter what you feel. If you got the flu, the camera has to believe you don't, because to get through your day. Yeah. And that's usually little things, details.
Yeah, I've had times where I'm just. A lot of times I'm looking in a mirror and like no expression. They don't want no expression at all, and let the audience decide what I'm feeling. Let the music that's in the background and the circumstances decide what I'm feeling. So sometimes you think, you gotta have this, you gotta really show that you're upset, and really it's more about bringing it in and just letting the moment speak for itself.
It's context. It's context of the scene, what happened before and after, and etc.
And it's the director knowing it too.
Yeah.
I think that's the other part of it is, and the best moments that I've had in a directing setting or working with a director has been when the director knows the story as well and knows the characters in it and the scene as well or better than the actors in the scene, and can bring small little notes to it or even just reminding you of something that's, and if you're shooting out a sequence, reminding you of where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And that's a whole nother thing, but when the director really knows the material.
So the captain of the ship has to know where you're going and where you've been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you hate it when extras in a movie or TV show aren't allowed to talk? Like on Star Trek when the captain talks to a crew member.
Ensign, take this to engineering. Can I get a yes, Captain? This is the military, Do you speak? Well then, say something. You realize I could have you killed. 300 people on this ship and I can only get 6 to talk to me. Carry on.
The reason movies and TV shows do this is because of SAG, the Screen Actors Guild rules. If someone opens their mouth and says a single word, their pay goes from $148 a day to over $1,000 a day. And you'd have to pay residuals. So movies do unrealistic things to save a few bucks.
You know, I made it with a green alien once, right? Does that impress you?
Welcome to another Framelines interactive project. On our site and our Vimeo and YouTube pages, you'll find all the raw footage for creating a multicam project. Start by syncing all the shots to the slate, find the clap on the waveform, then use your editing program to switch from one shot to another. You can also turn these into music videos by shooting your own storyline to edit into the project if you like. Please make sure to credit the crew and the songs if you post it online. Also, we'd appreciate a hashtag, FramelinesTV. So have fun with the footage, and I hope to see your edits soon. I'm Peter John Ross, and this is for Framelines.
Be sure to visit our website, framelines.tv, to see video clips, read articles, and other web exclusives. And please subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels right here. Time for the wrap party. I'm Johnny DiLoretto, and this closes another episode of Framelines.